There's something strangely powerful about a birthday. It's supposed to be the one day the world pauses for you, a day drenched in meaning, color, and expectation. People gather, messages pour in, candles flicker, and someone whispers, "Make a wish." But not everyone lights those candles. Some people wake up on their birthday, brush their teeth, drink their coffee, and go to work as if it's any other day. No announcements, no parties, no posts, just another sunrise, another sunset. And beneath that quiet routine lies a psychology that most people never stop to notice. For some, the silence is not sadness, it's peace. They don't need to be reminded that they exist. They already know. They don't crave balloons or attention because they've outgrown the idea that love must be loud to be real. But for others, that same silence hides something heavier, a quiet ache, a sense of distance, a memory of past disappointments that makes celebration feel empty or even painful. When you look closely, you realize that the way someone treats their birthday reveals far more than their preference for cake or candles. It reveals their relationship with time, love, self-worth, and meaning itself. Society tells us that birthdays are sacred milestones, that to treat them as ordinary is somehow wrong. But what if the opposite is true? What if treating your birthday like a normal day isn't cold or cynical but wise? What if it's a reflection of emotional maturity? Or perhaps a shield against old wounds that never fully healed? Some people find power in normalcy. Others find safety. Either way, there's a quiet rebellion in choosing not to perform joy on command. So let's talk about those people, the ones who don't post, don't party, don't announce, the ones who treat their birthday like a Monday. Their psychology is complex, layered, and deeply human. Because behind that calm indifference lies something raw and honest, a deeper truth about what it means to grow, to remember, and to face yourself when the world says you should celebrate. Number 1. The myth of the special day. How culture shapes expectations. From the moment we are children, birthdays are sold to us as magical. Balloons, cake, laughter, gifts, a ritual of joy that seems to define belonging. We're told it's our day, the one moment the universe turns its gaze toward us. Parents plan surprises, friends gather, and teachers sing that awkward, cheerful tune. And as we grow, that script follows us. Society teaches us that happiness must look like celebration, that a birthday without noise must mean something is wrong. But beneath that cultural script lies a powerful illusion, one that not everyone buys into. The truth is, the concept of a special day is man-made. It's a social tradition built on collective conditioning. We celebrate because we're told to, not always because we feel the need to. For many, the ritual of celebration has lost its authenticity. The candles, the toasts, the photos, they can feel rehearsed, almost forced, like a performance meant for others rather than oneself. When someone chooses to treat their birthday like any other day, they're not rejecting life. They're rejecting the performance of it. Cultural pressure shapes our emotions more deeply than we realize. The world tells us to smile, to post, to show gratitude. But genuine emotions don't always fit the mold of expectation. Some people find joy in simplicity, not spectacle. For them, peace is found in the quiet normalcy of an ordinary day. Their choice is a rebellion against the idea that happiness needs witnesses. Yet, that same rebellion often comes with misunderstanding. Society romanticizes birthdays as emotional proof that we are loved and seen. So when someone chooses not to celebrate, people assume sadness, bitterness, or detachment. But maybe it's not about sadness at all. Maybe it's about reclaiming ownership of one's emotions, about saying, I don't need a calendar to remind me I matter. And is no end, and is no end is no. The psychology of rejecting the special day myth isn't rooted in apathy. It's rooted in clarity. These individuals see through the illusion that celebration equals meaning. They understand that true joy, the kind that lasts beyond a single day, doesn't need decoration. And in that realization, they uncover something that our celebration-driven world often misses, that every day has the same potential for gratitude, reflection, and peace. Number 2, the emotional detachment. When the day doesn't mean what it used to. There comes a point in many people's lives when the magic of birthdays fades not out of bitterness, but out of quiet acceptance. The childlike excitement of counting down the days, the thrill of waking up to presents, the warmth of voices singing your name, it all slowly dissolves into routine. The day that once sparkled now feels like any other. For some, this isn't sadness. It's emotional detachment, a calm, unshaken neutrality that replaces the need for fanfare. But for others, it's something deeper, a subtle emotional numbness that hints at exhaustion, disillusionment, or even grief. Emotional detachment isn't always a choice. Sometimes it's a shield built over years of unmet expectations. Maybe too many birthdays passed where the people who mattered most weren't there. Maybe the laughter felt hollow, the gatherings forced. Or maybe life simply became too heavy, too fast, and one day's meaning was swallowed by the noise of survival. When you've weathered enough disappointment or heartbreak, you start to expect less, even from your own birthday. You stop waiting for something special to happen because it's safer that way. This detachment can be misunderstood. Outsiders might label it as coldness, as if the person has lost their spark or gratitude. But what's really happening is a quiet recalibration of the heart. When someone treats their birthday as ordinary, they're saying, I don't need to feel something extraordinary to prove I'm alive. It's a way of reclaiming control over emotions that were once hijacked by expectations. There's also a kind of freedom in this neutrality. For people who have faced loss, struggle, or emotional burnout, normalcy becomes a form of peace. A birthday that feels ordinary is one that doesn't demand performance. There's no pretending, no emotional labor, just presence. It's not that they don't care. It's that they've learned to live without needing external validation to mark the passage of time. Emotional detachment, then, is not the absence of feeling, but the evolution of it. It's a quiet maturity, a way of saying, I have nothing to prove to this day anymore. And while the world may still see birthdays as proof of joy, those who feel detached know something different. Sometimes peace doesn't look like excitement. Sometimes it looks like waking up, taking a deep breath, and carrying on, and that, in itself, is enough. Number 3, the ghosts of past birthdays, pain, disappointment, and memory. For some people, the reason they treat their birthday like a normal day isn't found in who they are now. It's buried in what they've been through. Behind their calm indifference may live a collection of birthdays that didn't go the way they hoped. Forgotten calls, empty rooms, promises broken by people who swore they'd show up, the sound of silence where laughter should have been. These memories don't disappear. They stay, quietly reshaping the meaning of the day until it no longer feels worth celebrating. The human mind has a way of building emotional associations. It ties feelings to moments, patterns, and rituals. When birthdays repeatedly carry pain, loneliness, or disappointment, the brain learns to expect it. So, when the calendar comes around again, something inside shuts down, almost automatically. It's just another day, they say. But what they really mean is, I don't want to open that door again. They have learned that sometimes pretending not to care is easier than being hurt by hope. It's not always about dramatic events. Sometimes, it's the quiet heartbreak of growing up unseen. The child who watched others get birthday parties but never had one. The teenager who blew out candles alone. The adult who smiled through a celebration that felt empty because the people who mattered most weren't there. Over time, those small emotional wounds harden into a habit of expecting nothing, of staying neutral, of surviving the day instead of celebrating it. But within this pattern lies something deeper than sadness. It's control. Choosing to treat a birthday as ordinary becomes a way of taking power back from the past. It's a silent declaration. Those old memories no longer get to decide how I feel. For some, it's a protective instinct. For others, a healing ritual. They strip the day of meaning so it can't hurt them anymore. The psychology here is subtle but profound. The avoidance of celebration isn't apathy. It's emotional self-defense. It's the psyche saying, I've had enough disappointment. I don't need to set myself up for more. And yet, even in this quiet detachment, there's often a flicker of longing, a hope, buried deep, that maybe one day, someone will remember without being asked. The ghosts of past birthdays don't always haunt loudly. They whisper in silence, in routines, in the calm tone of someone saying, it's just another day. But that calmness often carries the weight of every year that went unnoticed. And in that quiet, you find both the pain and the power of human resilience. The ability to keep moving forward, even when the heart remembers everything it's trying to forget. Number 4. Independence and identity. The desire to belong to oneself. There is a certain kind of strength in the person who doesn't wait for others to make their day special. The one who wakes up, pours their own coffee, goes to work, and doesn't expect a single message, not because they've given up, but because they've outgrown the need for it. For some people, treating their birthday like a normal day is not a sign of sadness, but of sovereignty. It's a declaration. I belong to myself. Psychologically, this mindset often stems from a deep sense of self-reliance. These are the people who have learned to meet their own needs, to build their own emotional stability without depending on validation from others. They don't need a flood of notifications or a dinner party to feel significant. Their self-worth isn't rented from the approval of the outside world. It's owned quietly, permanently, and without display. This independence can develop out of necessity. Some people have learned through experience that waiting for others to remember them, to celebrate them, to make them feel special, only leads to disappointment. So, they stopped waiting. They began to celebrate in private ways by reading a book they love, cooking a meal just for themselves, or doing absolutely nothing at all. The celebration becomes internal, not external. There's also a psychological clarity in not giving the day too much power. When you stop viewing your birthday as a pedestal moment, you stop giving it the authority to define your happiness. You stop giving other people's actions or their silence the ability to wound you. It's a shift from dependency to ownership. In that way, choosing normalcy can be a quiet act of liberation. But this independence is often misunderstood. To others, it may look like emotional distance, like the person doesn't care. Yet beneath that stillness is someone who has learned to protect their peace. They understand that genuine contentment doesn't depend on whether people remember the date you were born, but on whether you remember who you are becoming. To belong to oneself is to know that joy doesn't need witnesses. It's to find comfort in solitude, pride in privacy, and satisfaction in simplicity. When someone treats their birthday like any other day, it might not be detachment at all. It might be mastery. A mastery over the fragile ego that craves attention, and a trust in the self that no longer does. They are not cold. They are centered. They are free. Number 5. The fear of vulnerability. Why celebration can feel exposed. For some people, a birthday isn't a day of joy. It's a spotlight. And standing in that light feels like being stripped bare. The attention, the smiles, the chorus of "Happy Birthday," what seems warm to others, can feel like pressure to those who struggle with vulnerability. It's not that they hate kindness or connection. It's that they find it hard to receive it. Every happy birthday becomes a small test of trust, a moment where they must let others in, and that can be terrifying. Vulnerability has always been the core of human intimacy, but not everyone was raised to feel safe in it. Some people learned early that love can be inconsistent, that affection can vanish without warning, that attention can sting as much as it soothes. For them, being celebrated is not simply being seen, it's being examined. And that scrutiny, even when meant kindly, can awaken old insecurities. Am I worthy of this attention? Do they really mean it? Would they still be here if it weren't my birthday? This fear is subtle but powerful. The very thing meant to express love becomes a source of anxiety. They dread the expectation to perform happiness, to appear grateful enough, emotional enough, connected enough. Every social interaction becomes a balancing act, showing appreciation without feeling exposed, receiving affection without appearing needy. For these individuals, treating their birthday like a normal day is not a rejection of love, but a boundary, a quiet way to stay emotionally safe. It's easy to overlook how birthdays can amplify insecurity. When you are the center of attention, even for a few hours, you can't hide behind normalcy. People look at you. They ask questions. They remind you how much time has passed. For someone who wrestles with self-doubt, that attention feels invasive, even suffocating. The simple act of blowing out candles can feel like performing under emotional interrogation lights. So they choose normalcy not as an act of defiance, but of self-preservation. They keep the day ordinary to stay grounded, to avoid the intensity of feeling too much, too fast. It's easier to blend the day into routine than to face the emotional storm that celebration can awaken. But beneath that avoidance lies something profoundly human, the longing to be seen without fear. People who hide from their birthdays often crave connection just as much as anyone else, but they want it to feel safe, genuine, unforced. They want love that arrives quietly, without spotlights, without pressure. And until they find that kind of love, they choose stillness over spectacle. Because sometimes, staying unseen feels safer than risking the pain of being seen and misunderstood. Number 6. Time, mortality, and the existential weight of aging. There's a strange heaviness that can settle over a birthday, even when everything seems fine. The candles glow, the smiles appear, the messages pour in, but somewhere in the quiet between it all, a thought creeps in. Another year gone. For many people, that simple realization carries more emotional gravity than they're willing to admit. Time doesn't just pass. It erases. It transforms. It reminds us that the road behind is getting longer, and the one ahead is getting shorter. For those who treat their birthday like a normal day, this awareness isn't just intellectual. It's deeply felt. A birthday is, at its core, a marker of mortality. It's not only about being alive, but about how much of that life has already been spent. Some people celebrate to distract themselves from that truth, while others can't help but stare right into it. They feel the subtle ache of reflection. Am I where I thought I'd be by now? Have I wasted time? Am I becoming the person I wanted to be? These aren't easy questions. And for some, avoiding the celebration becomes a way to avoid the mirror. Psychologically, birthdays can trigger existential anxiety. Unlike other holidays, they are deeply personal. A reminder that your timeline moves regardless of your readiness. And for those who carry regrets, unfulfilled dreams, or lingering grief, that reminder can sting. It's easier to file the day away as just another Tuesday than to confront the passing years and the expectations that come with them. Yet not all who skip the celebration do so out of despair. Some do it because they've accepted the fleeting nature of time. They no longer cling to the illusion of permanence that birthdays often represent. Instead, they see life as a continuous flow every day, equally precious, equally impermanent. Treating their birthday like a normal day is their quiet way of honoring the truth that life's meaning doesn't depend on milestones, but on the moments we actually live. Still, there's a quiet danger in letting time slip by unnoticed. When someone stops marking the passage of years, it can sometimes mean they've grown numb to it, that they no longer feel connected to the rhythm of their own existence. That numbness can be protective, but it can also be a warning sign, a symptom of emotional fatigue or unresolved grief. The line between acceptance and surrender is thin, and sometimes indistinguishable. So when someone shrugs off their birthday, don't assume it's indifference. It might be reflection. It might be mourning. It might be quiet acceptance. It might even be peace. Because the truth is, birthdays are not just about celebration. They're about reckoning. And for some, that reckoning is best faced in silence, with no candles, no noise, and no pretending that the passage of time feels light. Number 7, the minimalist soul, finding meaning in ordinary moments. Some people don't need fireworks to feel alive. They don't crave confetti, applause, or a sea of voices singing their name. Their sense of meaning doesn't hinge on one date circled on a calendar, because for them, every day holds quiet significance. These are the minimalist souls, the ones who find beauty in the ordinary, gratitude in simplicity, and peace in consistency. When they treat their birthday like a normal day, it isn't neglect, it's philosophy. In psychology, this mindset is closely tied to intrinsic motivation, the ability to draw joy from within rather than from external rewards. People with this trait often live intentionally. They have learned that happiness built on spectacle is fragile, fleeting, and dependent on others. But joy that blooms from everyday life, the morning light through a curtain, the smell of rain, a silent walk, a genuine conversation, that kind of joy endures. To them, treating their birthday like any other day doesn't make it less meaningful. It makes every other day just as meaningful. This isn't about pessimism or emotional detachment, it's about balance. They understand that the pursuit of special moments often blinds us to the beauty of the present. The problem with celebration culture is that it teaches us to chase highs, leaving the in-between moments feeling dull. But minimalist souls live differently. They don't chase emotional spikes. They dwell in calmness, where peace doesn't need to shout to be heard. Their birthdays reflect that same grounded approach. No expectations, no pressure, no emotional roller coaster, just stillness. They might light a candle quietly, take a slow walk, or do something kind for themselves. But they won't post it, won't announce it, won't need applause. Because for them, contentment isn't an event, it's a way of living. And yet, this simplicity holds a quiet danger too. In a world obsessed with recognition, minimalists risk being misunderstood, seen as distant, aloof, or cold. But the truth is, their simplicity often hides depth. They feel deeply. They just express it softly. They celebrate life every day, not in bursts of attention, but in quiet moments of awareness. The minimalist soul knows something most people forget, that meaning isn't something you schedule once a year. It's something you notice, moment by moment. Their birthday, like every other day, is a reminder that life doesn't need to be louder to be beautiful. Sometimes, the quietest days are the ones that mean the most. Number 8, the hidden cry, when normalcy masks emotional pain. Not everyone who says it's just another day means it. For some, those words are armor smooth, practiced, and deceptively calm. They say it because it's easier than explaining the ache beneath the surface. Easier than admitting that the silence hurts. Easier than facing the truth that what used to feel like joy now feels like emptiness. Beneath the mask of indifference, there are people who quietly mourn the love, attention, or warmth they never received. And they hide that pain in plain sight under the phrase, "I don't care about birthdays." Respectively. Psychologically, this is a form of emotional self-protection. When people experience disappointment again and again, they learn to lower their expectations until they disappear entirely. Hope becomes dangerous because it opens the door to hurt. So they build walls out of logic. It's just another day. It doesn't matter. I don't need anyone to remember. But inside, the child, they once were the one who waited for candles. Laughter, or even a simple happy birthday, still whispers, "Please, notice me." That longing doesn't make them weak. It makes them human. We all crave recognition, not the superficial kind that floods social media, but the quiet, intimate acknowledgement that we exist and are loved. When someone treats their birthday like nothing, it may be because no one ever taught them. It could mean something beautiful, or worse, because every time it did, it ended in disappointment. For some, this hidden pain turns into emotional withdrawal. They stop mentioning their birthday altogether, pretending they've forgotten, when in reality, they remember it more sharply than anyone else. Each passing year becomes a reminder not of age, but of absence, of who isn't there, of who never was. And so, pretending it doesn't matter becomes the only way to keep from falling apart. But here's the truth most people miss. Silence can be both shield and scream. When someone downplays their birthday, it's not always indifference. Sometimes, it's a quiet plea for care that doesn't have to be begged for. A small hope that someone will remember on their own, without hints or reminders. A wish for connection that feels safe, gentle, real. So when you meet someone who shrugs off their birthday, don't assume it means they don't care. Look closer. Listen deeper. Sometimes the strongest people are the ones who hide their sadness behind composure, who protect their hearts with silence, who act like the day doesn't matter because it matters too much. And when someone finally sees them not because they asked, but because they were noticed that small, the simple act can mean more than any grand celebration. Because sometimes, the quietest cry for love is the one wrapped in the words, "It's just another day." And to console. Conclusion. Birthdays are strange things. To some, they are joy and laughter, a day that glows brighter than the rest. But to others, they are mirrors reflecting memories, expectations, and truths we don't always want to face. The people who treat their birthday like a normal day are not cold or broken. They are complex souls, living somewhere between peace and pain. Some have found freedom in simplicity. Others carry quiet scars from years when the world forgot to care. But in both, there is honesty, a refusal to fake celebration when it doesn't feel right. We live in a culture that tells us celebration equals happiness, that love must be loud, that joy must be performed. But those who choose silence are teaching us something profound, that meaning doesn't have to shout, that some of the strongest people are the ones who find dignity in stillness, who measure their worth not by attention, but by inner calm. Their choice is not rejection, it's reflection. It's a decision to own their emotions instead of renting them out to social expectations. It's an act of self-respect, of self-understanding, of quiet resilience. And maybe, in a world obsessed with milestones and applause, that kind of stillness is the most radical form of self-celebration there is. So when you meet someone who doesn't mark their birthday with candles or noise, don't rush to judge or pity them. Their silence has meaning. It might be peace. It might be protection. It might be power. Whatever it is, it's theirs, and it's real. And maybe that's the lesson buried in all of this, that life doesn't need one special day to feel sacred. Every sunrise is a gift. Every breath, a reminder. Every ordinary moment, a quiet reason to be alive. Some people don't need a birthday to feel grateful. They're already living that truth every single day.